So I have to go back to the issue of concerns. We have a question here. So, who is the most dangerous player today concerning cyber warfare? In your opinion, that could affect the status quo of power? Who is the most dangerous player, and will it change the balance of power?
Well, that's a really good question, because there are so many contingencies attached to it, and that's not to try and avoid it. So, in terms of the status quo, I think China, because of its development of AI, and it is, I mean, in terms of the what keeps you up at night. If I was someone working on international cyber defenses in a state-based format, I would be deeply concerned about China's development of AI and how far ahead of us they are, but also how essentially leaky the West is around its data supply. You can actually buy all the social media data that you want, in essence, and if you can stick it through ever more increasingly powerful AI, it is not implausible to think that the Chinese state knows more about us than either our governments, or indeed that I know about myself, for example. So from that point of view, if you're looking for one seismic shift in the international system, I think China's use of AI and development of AI is that one that I would put my flag on.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the drama, because perhaps we haven't seen such a well-developed adversary in recent years, and apparently this one is fairly developed. So I guess that really does keep a lot of people up at night, especially here in the US. People are concerned about not
Yeah.
just. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, just going to add. Sorry, Ron. I was just going to add. Actually, though, so what sits in the room, like the elephant in the room, as we say, is actually the development of quantum computing. So there is, if you look in the literature, there's a large amount of concern about what post quantum cryptography looks like. So does it, if a one side or another develops quantum computing to the extent that it can essentially brute force our standard cryptography, that does something to undermine our banking, our financial transactions, our email security, VoIP security, all manner of things that require some level of password to get into it, or some kind of validation, could essentially be brute forced. So there's an arms race analogy, but an arms race going on around quantum computing, and then post quantum computing as well. And I think, again, it's not clear to me who is preeminent in that space. Obviously, we've seen IBM and Google bringing validated technologies to the market. Well, not to the market, but certainly to being proof of concept and showing that they work. But if any state can roll those out successfully, then they will have a competitive advantage.